Hello, everyone, and welcome to Clearing Your Path to Health with Caroline. And thank you very much to Scott for being the producer for this show. And today I have on, I'm so excited about this. It's going to be so much fun. So, Katie Weaver is a fellow 1-2 radio co-host, and we just always giggle a lot when we get going. So just gonna introduce yourself, perhaps Katie, to people who don't know who you are or what you do, just to give us a little rundown of things, and be very welcome on my show.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Well, I have 3 shows here on 1-2 Radio. I have the 1-2 News Show with Scott on Mondays. I have the Katie Weaver Show on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. And then on Thursdays, I'm back at 10 a.m. Pacific with Read Me on the second and fourth week of the month, or Strange Phenomena and Mysteries on the first and third weeks of the month. So lots of radio for me. And of course, I'm a professional psychic advisor. Yeah, over at 1-2 Listen. And I've been at 1-2 Listen now for, I think, this September, like right now. I always miss my anniversary, and I think I've done it again. But it's my 8-year anniversary here in September. So
that's so cool. Yeah, I think I'm coming up on a year. Can you believe it? It's gone so fast? But mine's in October, I noticed. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, well, welcome to the show. It's so fun. So what we're going to do, everybody, today is we are going to talk about health, surprisingly. And what I've said to people is, if you have any health questions for either Katie or myself or both of us, do pop them in the chat room. We're going to be concentrating more so on health today, but if you've got a really pressing question that you want us to answer, then of course we'll have a go. So, Katie, one of the things I thought might be really interesting to talk about was how we can help ourselves, because I really got in my face today like a really clear reminder of this, that, we both help people to get well. But a lot of what I'm seeing is people just coming to be fixed, and that's just not my job. You know what I mean? My job is to help them, show them what they need. But a lot of what I'm seeing is that my job is to show them the way and then have them take responsibility for their health. So I don't know what you think about that.
Oh, I think that's very true, because the best, I don't know. I kind of go both places with it, because on one hand, it does always seem to be that a pound of prevention, is worth, what do they say? Something. It's a saying. But, preventative measures, just wellness measures, are always helpful. But, I have also seen it many times in other people and in myself that sometimes people get sick and it's not their fault, So I kind of go to both sides of it. But I agree that being constantly aware of your health, your body, what you need is the best thing you can do for yourself.
Absolutely. And, most of it is common sense. And I love it when you're watching programs about foraging. They're like, well, your grandma would have known to pick this herb and put it in a tea, and that would have calmed your nerves, or this is good for menstrual cramps. Or, it's like we had this incredible relationship with nature, which we've seemingly lost. But I know it can be a little bit frightening right now with all the changes and all the craziness that's happening outside of us. But one of the things I love to tell people all the time is just remember to laugh. If you can, in any way, laugh, breathe well, eat well, sleep well, all the really, really simple things. And then, what I tend to see for myself, I suppose, is often when I'm having healings from some of my colleagues, they're getting rid of emotional issues that I didn't know I had. For example, my father's trauma that I didn't know that I'd taken on, etc. And so sometimes you do need to go to somebody else because you can't see what's going on with yourself. But how did you get into the kind of healing world? What was your story?
So I was, I'd been doing Reiki on myself for a while, because when Scott and I got married when we were 19, and we went on our honeymoon to California, and we got in a car accident in Los Angeles on the freeway. Scariest thing, because, we are 2 little Idaho kids that, used to driving on rural roads, and it wasn't our fault. We were rear-ended, but it was a high-speed crash, and it didn't total our car or anything. but I had a whiplash injury and I didn't know anything about whiplash injuries, you know? And I came home from our honeymoon. Suddenly my entire body hurt everywhere. And
here's some details.
We lived in a little college town and we were there to go to school, and I worked at Kmart. And so when we got back from our honeymoon and I started working at that store, my legs would ache and hurt so much that I'd just come home from work in tears every night. And I just got progressively worse, my entire body in an enormous amount of pain. And we moved back home to where we were from because things were not working where we were. I wasn't healthy enough, and it was so poor Scott, came from, we were both really healthy and active and in great shape. And then, got in this wreck and everything changed for me. And over the course of the next year, after going to many doctors and trying lots of, holistic treatments and physical treatments and whatnot, finally I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And which we now know is kind of a dustbin, when they don't know what's wrong with you, surely that's what it is, but it, not for everybody, but that's how it was treated around here. But at any rate, I got to the point where I would come home from work in so much pain that I would get in the bathtub and he would bring me dinner in the tub. And that was the way we spent our evenings, because that was the only place I wasn't miserable. And then his dad so sweetly brought his hot tub to our house and set it up for me so that I'd have that, because it helped me a lot. But at any rate, that first year after we got married was rough. There were days I couldn't curl my own hair and Scott would do it for me. And that's when I really, the rheumatologist put me on sleeping pills and muscle relaxers, and it did help. But I felt like it was keeping me so dull and numb.
Mm-hmm.
And also at some point I really wanted to have a baby, and I felt like if I was on all of this stuff, I would never be able to have a baby. And so that really put me on a path of looking for wellness for myself. And my sister, Christy, was already a Reiki master, and she had sought out Reiki because she had a car accident and a whiplash injury and a very similar story.
Wow.
And so she did my Reiki attunements, and I started doing Reiki on myself, and to great success, and started feeling like I can do this. And I started learning a lot more about what my body responded to and what I needed, and doing better and worse. It's with autoimmune disorders, that's how it is. You do great and then you don't, and you have to be patient and kind. But at any rate, a few years down the road after that, so I'd been doing Reiki on myself and my family and my daycare kids and my kids as I started to have them. We went to a wellness fair. And at that wellness fair, there was a woman there who had written a book about intuitive health. And I went to her presentation, and she took us through several activities, and I nailed every one of them. And I was like, oh,
Yay.
Well, that's interesting. So afterwards, I approached her to sign my book. I purchased her book and I asked her to sign it. And she looks me in the eye and she just stares at me for like 60 seconds, very uncomfortable, And I'm standing there thinking, what the hell? So then she writes a message in the book. She hands it to me and presses it up against my chest. And she pointed at me and she said, I mean it. So I was like, what the heck? So I walked away and I opened the book, and what she wrote on the cover was, you are a healer. The only thing holding you back is your fear. And I cried and cried and cried and cried, because she couldn't have been more right,
Yeah,
but it was from that experience, from her books and then others, and just, that whole kind of 5-year span there, where I finally quit pushing my gifts aside and started using them. And that experience there at that wellness fair, that I finally went, these are things that I can do. These are things that I should do. And I think that's probably, that's where a lot of my, healing work spun off from, really.
That's a fabulous story, Katie. I love that. Especially, gosh, lucky that she recognized in it and wrote that thing, because it clearly prompted you to be the fabulous healer that you are today. So my story is less dramatic than that. I didn't need a car accident, but I was traveling a lot into Europe because I was an international sales rep. And so I was on a plane maybe 2-3 times a week, and I smoked heavily and I drank heavily and I partied hard. I was in my 20s, coming up 30s, maybe late 20s. And it was a fun lifestyle. I mean, I loved it. But like slowly I started doing what you did. I kind of deteriorated. I knew something wasn't right, but I had no relationship with my body whatsoever. You know what I mean? I didn't know it at all. So for 2 years, I kept going to the doctor. And in England, when you go to the doctor, sometimes I lived in a big city, so there was like maybe 12 doctors, and you just got to see who was free that day. And I got told I was a hypochondriac, go away, leave us alone. I got told it was because I smoked so much. I was told it was because I flew so much. They just kept saying, there's nothing wrong with you, go away, go away. And I was like, but I know there's something wrong with me. And I literally went to the doctor, not every day for 2 years, but, you know, every couple of months going, look, I'm exhausted. This hurts. It's not right. Actually, it wasn't that hurt, but something else did. But anyway, finally, this really young, funky Kiwi New Zealand locum just said to me, has anyone ever tested your thyroid? And stupidly, I didn't even know what my thyroid was. How, like I said, I had no relationship with my body whatsoever. So I'm like, no, just test for it. But this is the first time anyone had really kind of listened. And when the results came out, she's like, wow, your thyroid's not functioning hardly at all. I don't know how you get out of bed in the morning. So I was like, oh, I just wanted to go in and punch a doctor, to be honest. But anyway, you know, and that was in the year 2000, and now we're in 2020, and it's just like you say, I have good months and bad months, and the bad months are, you know, exhaustion, and the good months are, yay, I can do this today. So at least it's got a name. And then, of course, you know, I went on to discover about lots of women, especially men do have it, but lots of women after a big trauma, a traumatic event, their thyroid sort of stops functioning. And my dad had died like a year and a half before the 2-year period. So that made a lot of sense to me and stuff. So I knew straight away that it was connected to grief. And then I searched, and then I found this healing modality that I do. And I've said this on the radio before. I walked into the room and I was like, my people. It was just, I'd been in the corporate world, I'd done the corporate thing, and here were these, you know, not hippies, but they were just alternative thinkers. And I've loved it ever since. And actually I had a client today, she was like, I wish I could help people like you do. And I said, you absolutely can. All you got to do is do the training. And then she's like, yeah, but you're really, really intuitive. And I'm like, yeah, but I've been doing this since 2005. You'll get good at it. You're just like every new skill, you just have to work it. And you know what I mean? It's just, well, anyway, I love doing what I do. So we were going to take questions, and I can see that Denise has placed a question in the chat room. Thank you for that. And do let us have your questions as you think of them. So I'm going to throw this to you first, Katie, and let's see what you say. Health question. Seems like darker circles under my eyes since quarantine. What can help? Haven't changed my diet.
Okay. Denise, you have come to the right girl. I have had under eye circles like that since I was a kid. Yeah, my mom used to say, I knew if you were getting sick because you would just develop these horribly dark circles under your eyes. I even a couple of times as a teenager, well-meaning adults asked me who hit me because I had such dark circles. Yeah, if I was sick or tired, bam. But under eye circles are kind of interesting because they don't usually indicate that there's an underlying health problem. They sometimes are caused by being out in the sun too much, but Denise, I don't feel like that's the case for you. Sometimes they're caused by too much sleep, and sometimes they're caused by not enough sleep. So a sleep balance is something to consider. But I actually feel like for you, it's none of those things per se. I feel like for you, what we're really talking about is the collective strain and stress right now. That from an empathic and energetic point of view, I feel like the collective strain and stress on empaths and sensitive people right now is enormous. And I suspect that that's what's really happening for you. And so I would recommend seeking out some natural remedies for it. You know, we always see the, you know, like in the movies, the spa where they have the cucumbers on your eyes. And that actually is helpful because cucumbers have skin lightening properties and astringent properties. And so I would try that. Rose water is really good. Just pick up some rose hydrosol and use that, put that on cotton balls and just dab that under your eyes, especially put it in the fridge and let it get chilled and then dab that under your eyes. That's a really good way to help put those capillaries to bed. But, you know, and some people also like to use a cold compress or cold tea bags. You know, everybody's different, so you have to try what works for your body. But I will tell you that I feel like really what this is for you is just the stress and strain of the world, the collective energy, and you're seeing it in your face.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And actually, my take on it was, I feel like before lockdown, you, what's the word? You had a nice routine and you were doing things, and then suddenly you had a lot of free time and you weren't sure what to do with it. It's affected your sleep pattern. You know, I feel like exactly what Katie was saying. But I also got a hint of, and I'm not qualified to tell you this, but I got a hint of lacking iron in your diet. So as I said, I'm not qualified, but there are lots of things you can do to address that, and that would be eating spinach. It doesn't have to be meat. There's lots of vegetables. Broccoli, I think, gives you iron. Just Google which foods have iron in them. You don't have to take very much, but I'm feeling like there is a slight imbalance for you. But yeah, I think it's just literally the change of routine and the exactly what Katie's saying, the stress of what's going on in the world. Katie, I'd also I hope that helps you, and let us know if that makes any sense to you. So I was sent a message today by a really good friend of mine. She lost a brother. They were like twins. They weren't twins, but they were so very close. And she has not been able to get over it. And she also is suffering massive pains in her legs since about 6 months after the grief. So she asked me to ask you and me what you think that could relate to.
Oh, I feel like that is directly connected to her grief. It's just, and here's why. Your root chakra, there's kind of a different connection for her, but it'll make sense. But when, as a child, you typically ground to your parents or connect to your parents in a specific way. Most children connect to their father at the root chakra and to their mother at the heart chakra. And if there's no father figure to ground to, that's when we see a lot of people with like really fragile root chakras, because literally a part of your root has nowhere to go. Now, I know this is her brother, not her father, but I feel like she was grounded to him in the exact same way. That there's that portion, there's that thread of your root or a cord that grounds to a person. And I see this in people a lot when their father dies. And people say to me, I feel like there's a hole in me. I feel like I'm literally like missing something. Well, you are from that spot, because that's where you ground. When you're grounded to that person, when they expire, that is just kind of like in the wind. And so a lot of times I'll take that portion of their root and ground it to something else, usually to like a body of water or into a mountain or something that's meaningful for them, you know, to put it somewhere so that they have that ground back, because that sucks. You know, it's a really awful feeling. And I feel like that's exactly the case for her, that her root chakra is, unable to repair itself right now because she has that missing piece. I feel like she was grounded to him in that sense. And so literally she's lost a piece of her safety and security. So my recommendation would be that we take that part of her root and we ground it somewhere. And the reason why that relates to legs is because the root chakra and the legs are interconnected. And so if the root's out of whack, sometimes we'll see some physical manifestation in the feet, ankles, legs, hips, that whole area of the body. So that's my take on that.
Sure, that was great. I didn't actually know that. thank you for educating me. And also I'm getting the sense, so possibly it's just exactly what you said, but legs are all about walking forward, moving on, taking a step out of where you are. And when you're stuck in your emotional grief in this instance, but it can be fear, anger, happiness, it can be any emotion that's extremely taking over, it can basically paralyze a part of your body. And so I'm feeling, I think I have actually shared that with her before. So, but for anybody who's listening, who's stuck in some kind of enormous emotion, happy or sad, and you've got problems with your legs, it can be about just literally moving them and making steps within your life. So it might be, okay, I'm feeling like I need to move house. Okay, what do I need to do to take steps to move house or change jobs or leave my partner or move in with my partner or whatever it is that is the next right thing for you to do on your journey. So, yeah.
For sure.
Thank you for that. That was really interesting. Okay, so one of the biggest discussions, I suppose, that's going on in a lot of the health circles right now are things like CBD oils and things like, there's super crystals, things with crystals in that can help you and And I know that the average person's intuition isn't brilliant, shall we say. So everybody goes for the quick fix and the marketing hype is what I call it. And I'm wondering if we can't talk a little bit about how can you tune into your body as to what you need in this moment, instead of looking at the pretty packages and going, oh, I like orange. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. Well, everybody has a tell of some sort. Even if you don't really think you're super intuitive, your body you have a physical sensation when something is right for you or true, or something is wrong for you or false, right? Everyone does. You just have to find it. And so there's lots of ways to pick up on that. But if I may take you guys through a quick exercise.
Sure.
To feel that. And so I want everyone to just take a few deep breaths and sit with me here for a minute. Close your eyes. Try and lower the stimulus a lot so that you're just feeling your physical body. And I want you to feel in for a minute right now so that you have a sense of what are you already feeling. Do I don't want to throw anything out there. I don't want to cause it. But, any physical sensation you're already feeling, let's just take note of it so that we can, wade through, right? All right. And now I'm going to ask you to repeat to yourself out loud or in your heart, your choice, something that you know is true. It could be as simple as your name or something that you love or something that is a truth for you. And as you do that, 3 times repeating that, I want you to examine what you feel in your body. What shifts? What flutters or warms or changes or ticks? Some people have a little tick somewhere. So do that right now. Repeat your truth 3 times. Good. And now I've put you guys quickly on the spot. And so if you didn't get a sensation right now, that's fine. Do it again later when you're in meditation or when you're not in your office or things are quieter. But if you did, we're going to roll with that, right? That is your place of truth. For me, it is a little fluttering and warmth in my belly. That's where I always feel it, is right in my solar plexus. So let's look at the flip side of it too. I think this really helps so that you know also what isn't right for you or what isn't your truth. So we're going to do the same thing, but this time I want you to say something that is not true, that you know is not true. I usually say something like, I hate puppies, something that I know for sure is not my truth. So again, 3 times with an untruth. and really discovering that sensation. Very good. And again, you're on the spot right now. And so if you didn't feel a shift, just do it again later when things are quieter and easier. But if you did, let's go with that. So now if we've ascertained what our truth is and what our untruth is, this is very easy. So let's say you're examining something like CBD. Everybody says, well, what do you have a pain? Well, you got to use CBD oil. And lots of people do great with CBD oil, but not everyone does, right? Mm-hmm. So go to the health food store or the dispensary or the wherever and pick it up and hold it and stand with it or sit with it and say to yourself, this is good for my body. And then sit with that and see what shifts in your body. For me, if it flutters and warms in my belly, that's a good, strong affirmative for me. If I have that shift in my heart, because I usually get a little anxious pang in my heart when it's not true, then I go, this is not. So maybe I would pick up a different brand or a different dosage to decide, is it really just not for me at all? Or I would go, no, I guess this really isn't for me. But that is an easy way, from the intuitive scale, even for people who don't really see themselves as being intuitive, to ascertain what's true or right for them. Or maybe you're going, okay, yes, I think I do need vitamin D, but how much do I take? And maybe your doctor has told you how much to take, and that's great, or your naturopath. But if they haven't, and you've decided you want to try this, then again, you might sit with the idea of, I'm going to hold 2 pills in my hand and ask my question. I'm going to hold 4 pills in my hand and ask my question. Now, obviously, don't be foolish, right? Don't overdose yourself. Don't, but if it comes down to things like supplements and trying to decide exactly how much your body needs, that's a really easy way to do it.
Yeah, I love that, Katie. Thank you. And it's so interesting to me because I was thinking, well, what do I do? But I have this thing when I'm speaking a deep, profound truth, so a real knowing, then my knees tingle.
Ah, good.
Yeah, no, so it's really interesting. And yeah, so that's that. But the other thing is I just hear in my head no or yes. And I was thinking, where do I hear it in my body? Oh yeah, no, I hear it in my head. But one of the things I do in my sessions as well is because if often people come to me with way too many medications, it's like we go through them and we say you should take that at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's not effective to take it in the morning with this one. Your body can feed back literally information about what time of day to take it and stuff like that. And sometimes that's about processes needing to have happened in the system before it will be effectively absorbed and all of that sort of thing. But it's a fascinating subject. I really love that. So I always exactly do what you do. I always say, well, I haven't tried it myself, so I'm not able to comment, but you need to, because it's interesting for me, because what I do is if I'm in a shop and there's lots of pretty packages, I just pick the one that really shines to me. For me, it lights up or something. I can't explain it better than that. But yeah, often, especially if I'm looking online, one of the names that I'm supposed to work with will just jump out at me. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll go with that one then. So I think once you've got to the stage where you trust yourself and you know what your yeses and no are, there are other things that you can do to really fine tune it, and working with your intuition is just so much fun. We used to play this game, Katie, which I would love to play. I want to listen. I just love it. So I would think of some questions and not tell you my question and get you to intuit the answer. It was just ridiculous. It was so So that's a way you can really train your intuition. So just find someone who wants to play with you and just play a game and make it fun. And it doesn't matter if you don't get it, it's just fun. Because I do feel that the world that is being created right now is very much one of trusting yourself. We're going to hopefully go smaller into smaller communities, and we're going to live on the land. And this is my fantasy anyway. And, things like intuition are going to be really, really important going forward. So anything you can do to prepare yourself for that, I think, is a really good idea. Mm-hmm. And also just what I was kind of saying when I was running around to the doctors saying, what's wrong with me? Having no relationship with my body, having, not knowing that I had a head and hands and arms and, what my organs were inside. And I'm not saying you have to go and do an anatomy and physiology course, but, have a chat with your heart every now and again and say, everything okay in there? Do you need any help? What do you want from me? I love you. Thank you for taking care of me. It's just about really coming back into the body, because I think our society doesn't encourage that in any way. It's all about the external. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and also the guy that taught me this wonderful intuitive healing that I do, he said, if you took the average American, he lives in America, and looked at, say, their liver just as an example, it would be overworked, underfed. It wouldn't have the necessary minerals and stuff because we live a very stressful life, and the kidneys would be in trouble. And, because we have kind of disconnected, if you like, from the natural world, which is why I'm building a garden. Yay! Because I really want to get out there. I'm so happy when I'm with the plants. It just, for 53 years, I was traveling, I was working in big office buildings, and I was miserable as sin, but I didn't know what was wrong with me until I got out with the plants. So I'm a little late to the party of knowing what I'm supposed to do, but here we are.
Well, hey, I mean, you know what? I think that happens many times throughout your life. It should.
Yes.
It should. And we should be able to occasionally take stock and go, I'm actually miserable. So what do I need to do?
Yeah.
A while back, I woke up in the night in a lot of pain, and I have RA, and so sometimes and at night, it's like when you have rheumatoid arthritis, sleep is you have a weird relationship with sleep because you really, really need it to repair yourself. But you destroy yourself when you sleep sometimes because you're in a weird position for a long time, or you're clenching your jaw, or sometimes I lock my knees when I sleep for whatever reason, and so you do various things that hurt you in the night, and then you wake up the next morning and have to repair those things. And, it's kind of it's a weird balance. But at any rate, I woke up and I realized that I was in an enormous amount of pain. I was in a weird position and just, something was wrong. And my mom was right there, my mom who's passed, and she said to me, what are 3 things you could do right now to lessen this pain? What are 3 things you could do right now? And it was like 2:00 in the morning, and so the lazier part of me wanted to be like, nothing, I'm going to turn over and I'm going to go back to sleep, but I really couldn't. And so I got out of bed and I thought, what are 3 things I could do right now? One of them was just getting out of bed, right? Changing my position, moving my body. The other one was using CBD oil because it does help me. And so I did that. And then the other one was drinking some water because I realized that I was actually really parched and I was in pain in my sinuses and, my mouth and throat because I was like really dried out. So I did those 3 things and I sat with them for a few minutes and I felt much better and I went back to bed. But I thought, what a powerful lesson in whatever it is we're experiencing when we're in physical or emotional or mental discomfort. What are 3 things you could do to feel better right now? And then what are 3 things that you could do to feel better long term? And start looking at those things when you, like, off the cuff, when somebody says to you right now, what are 3 things you could do? You don't have time to second guess that, right? You don't have time to justify and talk yourself out of it. You've just got to come up with those 3 things. And I think for all of us, it's important to recognize if you're dragging yourself to work every day, if you're finding yourself on Sunday night nearly in tears or worse because you have to go back to that place tomorrow, it's the writing's on the wall. That's the answer, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to ask yourself, what do you need to do? What are 3 things you can do right now to be more comfortable with your job so that you're not so unhappy there? And what is the long-term answer?
get another job, presumably. But yes, no, I agree with that completely about taking responsibility. But I think when I was in my deep depression and my, hate the world and hate everybody and didn't like myself at all, I didn't know that there was, how do I say that in English? I didn't know that there was a way that I could feel different. I'll say it like that. So I was in this dark tunnel and I did a lot to stay there. I can see that now, but I didn't know that that's what I was doing at the time. But there's something in me. I'm very, very lucky, I think, in that respect. I have a kind of undying survivor spirit, like I just always know it's going to be fine, whatever happens.
Yeah.
But I think when I went to, getting sober was a big issue for me. And I went to do that and I threw myself into it because when I found out I was an alcoholic, I knew that I didn't have a second recovery in me. So I just worked the first one like I was going to swear then. I'm not going to swear on radio. Like a very strong person. And and started looking at myself and my part in all my misery and, exactly changing my perception and learning that I'm lovable and intelligent and quite funny sometimes. And none of that I knew before. And I think in those days I was throwing myself at any healer because I was just desperate for somebody to make me well, which is a little bit addressing what we were talking about now in the beginning. It's like, nobody could have made me well, but I didn't know that at the time. So if you're in that mental desperate place, like that really awful place, or you just can't see a way out, know that other people have probably been there before and got better from it. So seek them out because they'll be able to tell you what they did. Not that that will necessarily work for you, but it will perhaps shine a light for you on some suggestions that you could take. But I always think exactly what you just said when you were trying to get out of bed. Your mum sounds like a really clever person. Just do the next best thing because it's going to lead to something else. And even if you don't believe in it or even if you don't trust it, just keep walking forwards. That's maybe very, very hot. I don't know why. There we are.
Well, but I think that makes a really good point that sometimes we especially with health, we put our feet in the sand and we go, I'm just going to wait this out. How many times have we all done it? I'm just going to wait this out. And sometimes when you do that, you just become so used to your symptoms. You're not really treating them. You're not really doing anything. Yeah. I hear this from people a lot that go, I don't really want to use Western medicine to treat this. I want to do it holistically. And I go, that's cool, but you can't take no action. Right? Like no action is the worst thing you can do. And that's something I see in this. I've done it many times myself, and I've seen it in a lot of my clients that we go, I don't want to take your pills. I don't want to do this or that. And that's okay. But that's not the answer. The answer for you has got to be some sort of action and actually moving forward with it, whether it's hard or not. And I think that we have to be really careful about getting, apathetic about our own health, getting used to symptoms that we just try to ignore away and we just kind of allow them for a long time rather than address them. And of course, getting into that place where we just try to ignore things away, because what happens is people end up so overdone, so miserable, and you're so used to feeling that way. You don't realize how much pain you're in or, how much distress or discomfort you're in. And that, I think that's how we lose tune of our bodies. We lose track of what our actual symptoms are or what we actually need. So don't fall into that trap if you can. And if you find yourself going there, go get a reading, get some help, go to your holistic practitioner or your doctor, but don't fall into the apathy or the trap of inaction, because that to me is the worst place you can go.
I agree completely. And I want to add to that. This may offend a few people, and I don't mean it in any way offensively, but I do see this happen a lot with some of my clients. I've got XYZ, whatever it is. So they've been given a diagnosis and they've kind of bought into it. And their idea is that with this diagnosis, this is the symptoms I'm going to get. And I, as a practitioner, don't work with diagnosis. I'm very happy if that's what you want to give me. But then I say, okay, let's ask the body what's actually going on. Now, I'm not saying the medical profession don't know what they're talking about. They absolutely 100% do. And if my leg fell off, I would be, at the doctor straight away. But there is kind of wearing it as a badge of honor and growing into that badge of honor instead of going, okay, so what can I do to support my body whilst I'm going through the process of understanding what's wrong? So we look at the really obvious ones. Food. What am I feeding what am I fueling my body with? Mm-hmm. What does my mind think of? Am I watching too many murders on TV? Maybe that's probably not very good for me. Do I spend enough time in nature? Do I cuddle my pet enough? These are really obvious things, but so many people just go to work, go home, go to bed. There's no, I'm not saying, if you've just been given a horrible diagnosis, I am extremely sorry for that. But with everything I find, you can really do a lot and take a lot of your power back by just saying, I'm going to feed myself properly. I'm going to respect myself enough not to smoke, not to drink too much, not to eat too much chocolate. I'm going to do things that will really help my health whilst I'm going through this. I've been given a diagnosis. I know I've got a problem. But I can't think of a single illness where eating properly won't help you, or
for sure,
thinking really good thoughts about the world is going to help. There's so many underlying factors and so many reasons why, you've got this diagnosis or you're manifesting these symptoms and everything. But underlying all of that is your responsibility to yourself. And it took me a long time, and I'm very, very stubborn. So I wasn't going to listen. But just really, really randomly, I've just started eating fruit. I've never eaten fruit in my life. But about 6 months ago, I was like, oh, this is really nice.
For sure.
I think that's just my body's changing. There's lots of energy changes. And suddenly I'm eating fruit. Hurrah. It's insane.
I think that's really wise in recognizing what is right for you. It's a big part of it, because we are in this space right now where, especially with nutrition, there are so many different opinions, right? About really what proper nutrition looks like. And the truth is, that's different for every single body. I mean, there's some basic tenets, like don't overdo anything and drink your water, things like that. But what I've learned over the years is that what makes one person feel amazing doesn't work for another. No. I have tried to be a vegetarian. I can't tell you guys how many times in my life I would like to be. I don't want to eat animals. I mean, there's the ethical part of me that's like, no. But every time I have tried, and I've tried doing it different ways, believe me, I've looked at a lot of different paths. My body doesn't respond well at all. And I finally had to realize, you know what? Your body is requiring protein from animal sources. And so we're going to do it in ethical ways. We're going to do it in as ways that we feel good about as much as humanly possible. But the truth is, my body's not suited to be a vegetarian. It's just how it is for me. And yet other people are straight up vegan and they're in the best shape of their life. And congratulations to them. It's great. But it's not right for everybody.
It's really not. And that's such a wise thing, because especially I find when you've got a very loving family. I don't have one of those, but I have seen where families are really invested in getting you well, and they really encourage you to do this. And then somebody, oh my goodness, my phone's on. I'm so sorry. That will teach me. Why is it? Oh, so sorry. And now it won't turn off. That's ridiculous. Okay, well, somebody wants me. But and so family members will gather around and they'll all give you conflicting advice, because they would all do it differently, because we're all different. And then it can be really confusing. I do have clients come to me and they say, well, my mom says this and my brother says this and my uncle says, what should I do? And I'm like, So they all mean really, really well, and you have to accept that that's what they're doing. But let's ask your body what it wants to do, because at the end of the day, your body always knows best. And then I have some people saying, oh, I don't want to hear what my body would say to me. And it's like, no, honestly, I can understand why you're frightened of that, but it's the best way to find out what it is that you actually need. So,
yeah.
Wow, that really flummoxed me, the phone ringing. I haven't had that before. There we go. I'm human. Gosh. Has anyone else got any health questions whilst we go into the last 10 minutes? Is anybody sitting there with a burning question and they're a little bit shy? Do post away. And I love Denise. I would never throw chocolate under the bus. It's my petrol. You don't call it petrol. You call it gas. It's what I use to fuel my day. I'm never going to be a good non-chocolate eater.
I've been very lucky because, well, for my family, and again, this is us and it's not everybody, but a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, we decided to go keto. And I know some people really flinch at keto, some people don't, but what keto means is it's an extremely low carb, higher fat diet. And some people, it's interpreted different ways by different people too, but at any rate, and for me, it has been extremely beneficial to my health, extremely beneficial. And for my family as well, for my kids, myself and my kids all have an arthritis disorder of one kind or another. And because we went keto and suddenly our aches and pains are at a minimum and our labs are way better and our doctors are going, what are you doing? This is amazing. It works. And even, my 17-year-old told me the other day, Mom, it's just not worth it to me to eat crap because then my knees ache and hurt and my shoulders hurt. And she's like, it's just not worth it to me. And I'm like, how lucky at 17 that she knows that.
No.
She might not always listen to it because we are ridiculous that way, but thinking about that in the sense of realizing, I think our bodies, in my family at least, that we are literally allergic to sugar. And we were having extreme responses to sugar. And not having sugar in our bodies has made a big difference for us. But I would never presume that that's the case for everyone, right? Because it just simply isn't.
I
know sugar's not great, but yeah.
Not one single person on the planet who needs sugar. It has been extremely well marketed to us. I managed 6 months without it once. As I've said on the show many times, I'm totally addicted to sugar. I know it's what I've got to give up, and I will. And I think you'll probably hear me the next radio show just being the most miserable, grumpy, snatchy, horrible woman. But anyway, that's what happens when I give up sugar. But I know I need to look at that. But what was I saying? Yeah. We've been sold a lie, and it really does mess with your immune system, which is what you're reacting to. So I know that's not very popular, and lots of people will be going, no, I want my ice cream. Great, eat it, but just know. I mean, I know all of that, and I still do it, so I'm terribly guilty.
But just know that there's awesome sugar-free chocolate. So see.
Is there?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in Europe.
Oh, maybe not. But yes, at least in the States, there's awesome sugar-free chocolate. It has made doing keto so much easier for me, or going sugar-free so much easier for me, because you can get really good sugar-free chocolate that is sweetened with safer options like monk fruit or, stevia, because that's the other thing. When you adjust your diet like that, are you just jumping from the frying pan into the fire, Because a lot of sugar-free products are shit, and so you've got to really know what you're putting in your body. But at any rate, sugar-free chocolate, man.
No, I'm going to grow stevia. I'm really excited about that. Mm-hmm. It's a plant-based sugar form, and I'm really excited about it. Whether or not it'll grow in the UK, and I've never heard of monk fruit, but there we are. I can look that up after the show. I think, this show isn't about really feel bad about what you eat, but at the same time, it's about showing a different way, I hope, to, find out what you need and live a happier life because you're not, you know, for me, the exhaustion was the biggest thing. I was so tired all the time. And that just doesn't really happen. I mean, the energies are a bit crazy at the moment, so my sleep patterns are a bit wonky, should we say it like that? But
Sure.
Generally, I'm a fantastic sleeper now and wake up feeling really energized, which for the first 40 years of my life, I did not do that ever, I don't think. So, yeah, I think if I gave up sugar, I'd be really, really irritating. Okay, so have you got anything you want to ask me, Katie?
Yeah, because right now it just seems like frequently people are waking up really low energy, dragging, just kind of feeling like something's wrong because the world feels wrong right now, you know? And so my question for you is, when you feel that way, what are your first steps? What do you look at? What do you go to?
So I'm just getting a message. Hold on. I'm being told that you asked that question because there's 3 people on this call that need to hear this. So, okay, great. Thank you for that message. Okay, so to the 3 people and anybody else who's interested. So, personally, 1.5 tons of coffee. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I always look at my hydration because, yes, the energies are a bit crazy, but we also live in a hugely toxic world. So I'm going to do a show just about toxins. In fact, I have Eddie Stone, the founder of the company of the products I sell. They're amazing. He's coming in on the 16th of November. So that's going to be a really great show to tell you all about why we're so toxic. So if you hydrate yourself, the toxins aren't as bad. I would look at detoxing all the time because I think we need to do that. But the other thing is, I always say, get outside. Whatever's wrong, get outside. Just maybe if you're in a city on a street, yeah. But maybe if you wanted to drive to a forest or find a beach or something, that's always what I do when my energy is really bad. Take my shoes and socks off. I stand on sand or in the forest or wherever, and I just give it all up to Mother Nature. I just am really strongly an advocate of giving her. She can take it, you know, but a lot of our drained energy can be, like I say, toxicity. It can be the energies. It can be what you ate last night. It can be you drank too much. There's so many different things. And I just find Mother Nature, and I'm so grateful to her for all the time she's really helped me. The other thing you can do, of course, is if you close your eyes and you're in a bit of a meditative state, just ask the universe to put more energy into you. And I usually visualize that as a white light of energy coming down into my crown chakra and then percolating through my body. And I just ask for that on a regular basis, especially if I've got a big day ahead of me and I just don't really have the energy for it. So that's what I would do. Any of those you do, or do you do other things?
The vat of coffee, usually, yes. But yeah, yes, for me, it definitely is about, you know, my little chihuahuas, we have a morning routine that actually really helps me with that, because as soon as we get out of bed, of course, they have to go outside. And so I usually go out and stand on the steps, or sometimes I'll step down into the grass and just breathe for a minute while they're outside doing their thing. I just give myself that minute of connecting to the earth, taking a few deep breaths, and just getting centered, you know. And that's like a 30-second thing, because they're chihuahuas. They run out and pee and they come straight back in the house to their blankets, you know. But even that little moment of time of just connecting to the earth, letting my head clear, is really important to me. But then part of my morning routine is putting some of our other dogs, we have a lot of dogs, out back and giving them their morning treat. And then I usually walk over to our apple trees and just breathe with them for a few minutes as well. And so I guess for me, a lot of it really is just connecting to the energy of the earth and of nature to just decompress, right? And then, of course, there's always some stretching for me to just, you know, wake my body up and move myself a little bit. And then there's coffee, that I take great joy in. And so to get started in the morning, that's where it's at for me, usually.
Yeah, no, I'm a coffee sugarhead and I have a show about health. But anyway, there we are. I'm human and I'm very happy with my addictions. But I'm going to say
coffee has a lot of benefit. It's what you put in coffee.
Yeah, no,
there's health benefits to coffee. It's the other stuff you put in it that you might reconsider. Yeah.
But anyway, okay, well, I can see the time, Katie. So sadly, this has come to an end. If you had a question and you didn't have time, then do tune back in a couple of weeks. We'll be taking questions then. Or you can contact either Katie or myself through 12listen. So, Katie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My honor. Thanks for having me. It's been super fun.
Always welcome. I'll definitely get you back on. I think we said we were also going to do readings on the 30th of November, right?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, great. Well, thanks very much. Have a good day. And gosh, so my next show is on the 5th of October with a lady called Lizanne Flynn. I do believe she used to work on 12listen, but anyway, she's an animal communicator, and I'm so excited to get her on and just talk to her about the work that she does and how she communicates with them. Also, both Katie and myself and all the other intuitives can be found over on 12listen. If you would like a reading, you can book intuitive healing sessions with me. They are email-based services, so do look for them under that. And I'm also just about to do the wellness scopes, which are a monthly look at your astrological sign. So do stay on the radio. We've got C.A. Brooks coming up in a short while with A Course in Miracles. That's always worth listening to. And at 12 p.m. we've got Kathleen Peterson and friends. So thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a really fun show. Thank you again to Katie. And I will say look forward to speaking to you again on the 5th of October. Okay, goodbye.